they'd hold together. Engineers use the same technique today, but instead of reeds, they reinforce their concrete buildings with metal rods called rebar. The smoke signals carried information much faster than a messenger on horseback. Burning wolf dung produced the tallest and straightest columns of smoke. Different colors and amounts of smoke signaled whether the threat was from a small raiding party or a massive invasion force. Over the years, the Han engineers perfected their technique of building with layers of reeds. They thrust their walls deep into the Gobi. The desert winds have sandblasted these once formidable battlements down to a third of their original size. But they're still impressive after 20 centuries. By taking the fight to the enemy, Han Wudi forced the Huns back from northern China and changed the history of the world. For the first time, merchant caravans could travel safely between Asia and the West, along the fabled Silk Route, all the way to Rome. But the Han raiders were never far away. Emperor Wu Di knew he'd need to protect the vital oases along the Silk Route. That meant building a fortress in the middle of nowhere, at Yumengguan, China's new western gateway. Han Wu Di's engineers would have to erect an invasion-proof fortress. The only building material was the soft clay blown south from Mongolia. It was a challenge that pushed their ancient rammed earth building system to the limit. From wind-borne dust, they built a fort with walls 5 times higher than a man. Strong enough to still be guarding the Yumen Pass after 2,000 years. Still battling the desert, the wind, and time. Today, all that's left is the central blockhouse. But when it was new, this last outpost of the empire was state-of-the-art. As its first line of defense, the Chinese developed a clever alarm system, a ditch filled with fine sand just outside the walls. Anyone sneaking up on the fort at night would leave telltale footprints. Emperor Han Wu Di built more than 600 miles of wall to protect the Silk Route. His troops pounded the Huns for 30 years, leaving them badly weakened. More than 1,000 years later, a much deadlier enemy would mass its armies before the Great Wall. But this would be the greatest of all the Great Walls, a masterpiece of military engineering, the mightiest fortifications ever seen on Earth. 2,000 years ago, engineers of China's Han Dynasty met a nearly impossible challenge, building the Great Wall across one of the harshest deserts on Earth. Defending their country against the marauding Huns, protecting caravans along the famed Silk Route. But centuries later, China faced an even deadlier threat. It was the time of the Mongols. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan and his terrifying armies burst out of Central Asia, conquering an empire that stretched all the way to Europe. The Mongols overran China and ruled it for 100 years, until a new dynasty, the Ming, pushed them back across the border. The year was 1368, and no one in Ming China wanted to see the Mongols again.
So they set about building the Ming Dynasty Great Wall, which turned out to be the most elaborate and extensive and strongest system of border defenses in Chinese history. And the Chinese were prepared to go to any lengths, any amount of labor, money, time, to make sure their civilization would not be disturbed again.
But like earlier dynasties, the Ming emperors didn't have enough troops to crush the barbarian horde. They could only try to keep the Mongols out, and even that would be a daunting challenge. The new imperial capital of Beijing seemed well protected by a range of mountains between the city and the northern steppes. But a series of passes sliced through these mountains. For Mongol horsemen, nature made expressways to the heart of the Ming capital. To save their city and their empire, the Ming would have to fortify every one of those passes. Unlike earlier dynasties, they didn't leave such an important task to slaves. They called on their best engineers and soldiers. The most brilliant of them all was General Qin Shi Huangdi.
The outstanding character of the Ming Dynasty was Qin Shi Huangdi, the commander of this military region just north of the ancient capital of Beijing. And he was a man that spent a long time out here in the field. And he saw that a lot of effort was going into Great Wall construction, but he felt it didn't necessarily guarantee a good military performance. So he advocated greater manning levels on the wall, and that needed accommodation. So the towers with enclosed space, rooms, were his design. And also the wall made almost entirely of bricks, again, is his design, because by using bricks, the builders could incorporate all those small design features that would make the defense more efficient. For sure, during the Ming Dynasty, Qin Shi Huangdi was Mr. Great Wall.
This would be Qin Shi Huangdi's toughest challenge, a place called Gubeikou. 500 years ago, Gubeikou was the weakest point in Beijing's defenses. A pass that gave invaders a straight shot at the heart of the capital. It's an easy invasion route for men on horseback and a defender's nightmare. So Qin Shi Huangdi set out to transform this cakewalk into a killing zone. First, he built a chain of beacon towers along the mountain peaks north of the wall. Then, his engineers extended the Great Wall right across the valley to halt any cavalry charge. Massive gates let the river pass through, but kept out invaders. Anyone who did try to penetrate the defenses would be trapped in the side valleys, where the defenders could slaughter them.
It's variously estimated that walls multiply the effectiveness of a single soldier by anywhere from 5 to 13 times. And if properly defended as part of a system, they are very effective.
Key to the defense system was an age-old military principle: hold the high ground. That meant building China's biggest walls, where building anything was a huge challenge. Places like Simatai, knife-edge cliffs near Gubeikou, mountain ridges barely wide enough to walk on, almost impossible to build on. We can only marvel that they did.